I don't know how they did it, but they managed to make Shadow the Hedgehog make even less sense. Hey, it's Allie, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Sonic X is one of the most iconic pieces of Sonic media, and I'm on a journey to find out if it was good or if we all just have nostalgia glasses for it. Last video, I talked about season 1 and how Sonic wasn't the main character and was barely in it. However, there were some really good episodes that stood out overall that I think really made the show, like, continue on. Like, I still want to see it go on. And of course, there are those iconic episodes that I still remember to this day. So with that all being said, let's head into season 2, where things are bound to get a bit chaotic. Yes, I'm using the same joke again. Look, I know I made the same joke in the last video, but I made it at the end of the video, which statistically, a lot of y'all didn't even make it there in the first place, so it's fine. If at any time you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe because I make videos like this all the time, and comment down below if you like Shadow the Hedgehog, baby. Because we're getting into Shadow the Hedgehog, baby. And let's jump into it. Okay, so to recap, Sonic and friends got transported to Earth and the Chaos Emeralds were their only way back. Knuckles, for some reason, thinks it's a good idea to give Eggman the Emeralds to help them get home. He betrays them, obviously. Kidnaps Chris, beats the shit out of Sonic. Chris breaks free with the Emeralds. Sonic gets them and goes supersonic, but also causing chaos control in the process. Then seemingly a piece of Sonic's world ends up on Earth, but that hasn't really been discussed yet. And that's what you missed on Sonic X. So let's kick this off with episode 1. So the first character that we see is Big the Cat, who is awoken by a big splash in the sky. Now, I mentioned this in the last video, but Big the Cat was not in season 1 at all, but he did also get transported onto Earth. And if you don't know Big the Cat, he's just a big, friendly guy. I've never really seen that much like characterization of him. He has a friend named Froggy. It's his best friend, and he likes to fish. And that's kind of it. I swear to God, in every single Sonic game, that's kind of his story. He doesn't really get anything else. Anyway, his BFFL, Froggy, finds a Chaos Emerald, but there's this weird goo thing that is slithering around the ground and makes room inside of Froggy. Now, things are getting weird. Some might even say chaotic. Okay, I'm done. I promise I'm done. But thanks to Exposition Man, and by that I mean the President of the United States, or whatever this world's version of the United States is, we know that Eggman has been missing for 6 months. They also plan to turn Angel Island, not Ellis Island. Ellis Island is a place in real... None of you corrected me on that. Angel Island is the place in Sonic. Ellis Island is a place in real life. Okay, it's Angel Island. Thanks. Anyway, regardless, they want to turn it into a tourist trap because of course they do. I don't think they ever actually go through with this. I think that was just one of the throwaway lines of like, oh, the government's so quirky, aren't they? God save us. And Chris and the gang are still hanging out, so let's check on Ella and Mr. Tanaka.
And you never will. It's my secret recipe.
Yep, still racist. And oh no, Sonic is missing and he hasn't been seen, I guess, for like these 6 months. Except no, he's not. He's right there. He's right there. Now, I will say, this season automatically gets points for me because Sonic is in 90% of the season. In fact, I don't think there's one episode that Sonic is not in it. In fact, I don't think there's one episode that's not directly about Sonic, except for maybe the Shadow stuff. But most of the time, Sonic is in there one way, one how. Somehow, some way, he is there. Which, like, we're already doing better than last season. Also, Amy has her own apartment in this episode. It's never brought up again. I think she moves in with the Thorndikes later, but for some reason, she's just living in an apartment in the city. I don't know why. Like, everything that she says, she could have just said as she was, like, walking down the street. Like, there's no reason to give her a specific apartment by herself. I digress. I don't know. I don't know. But she, you know, independent girl. Where she get the money to have this apartment, I don't know. But she's an independent gal. She also does talk about how lonely she is, which, like, you're living on your own and you didn't need to. I don't know why she chose to do that. Girl, I don't know. I don't know half the stuff they do with Amy in this season. Like, they make a lot of decisions that make me go, But it's okay. She's still my favorite Delulu girl, okay? And like I said, Dr. Eggman is missing. Except no, he's not. He's right there making gammas. I mean, these weird robot things that somehow all look the same. Yeah, you'll start to realize we got about like 500 plot points going on at once here. They took the criticism of the last season that none of this had to do with the games and was just like, you know what? Fine. You'll see. You'll see. And in OG Eggman fashion, he is using animals specifically from the other universe because they never look like the animals from the like Earth universe. There's like, I like this, a distinct difference in art style between the animals that inhabit what I'm going to call Mobius. It's not Mobius, okay? It's whatever Sonic's planet is called, but like in the comics, I think it's Mobius, so I'm gonna call it Mobius just for the sake I don't have to say Sonic's planet all the time. Okay, good. So on Mobius, Sonic's planet, there are badniks, and they are the animals that inhabit the Earth. And then there are on our planet just regular animals. They look distinctly different from each other in this show, and I really like that because specifically Eggman uses badniks to power his robots, but he doesn't use regular forest creatures. So I think that's like cute little nod to him doing that. He never does it again, which is weird because if it's so effective, why doesn't he just continue to do it? But I guess it's a little nod to the fact that like to power his robots and give them some type of like soul or whatever, he has to use badniks for that. I don't know, just some Sonic lore for you. Now, unfortunately, the bad CGI is back, and we do get some heinous moments of that throughout the season. However, the egg carrier looks cool. Like all of Eggman's ships in this specifically, like they kind of abandoned the robot mecha thing from last season, and now we're focusing on Eggman ships and Eggman ships having weapons. And I like that a lot, especially with where we go with the arc and the egg carrier and all that stuff. So the egg carrier, it looks really, really good in this season, despite the fact that it's mostly CG. So Chris and Cream run into Big, and Big is like, I need your help to help find my friend Froggy. So they help Big. No questions asked about like, oh, are you from Sonic's universe? Did you come here? Did you know Sonic? All this stuff. They're just like, this big purple creature dude, we're gonna help him out, which like, you know, good on you for being a good citizen. But I feel like we should ask just maybe 1 or 2 questions. Maybe, just possibly. Anyway, they do find Froggy, but they also find this weird looking ooze thing that you've never seen before. Don't ever say you've seen it before. You've never seen it before. Now, an important thing to note that I need you to put a pin in is that Cheese, Cream's Chow, immediately tries to go towards this creature. Doesn't have a name yet, to pretend it doesn't have a name yet, tries to go towards this creature and is very happy about seeing this creature. And they're all like, whoa, Cheese, like, you know, calm down. What are you doing? Put a pin in that. I need you to put a pin in that. Anyway, this creature immediately becomes a terrorist. Now, Sonic is back, but earlier in the episode, Chris said that Sonic was lost and he didn't know where he is, but Sonic's back now. He's actually back now, and he fights Chaos, and he's just this goopy water thing, so Sonic doesn't really know how to fight him. And of course, Eggman is there, and Eggman reveals that he has been working with Chaos. That's the thing's name, by the way, in case you didn't know. Thing's name is Chaos this entire time. It's never actually really explained. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't think it was ever actually explained how he got his hands on Chaos, but he did. He's like directing Chaos's anger towards all of humanity. Anyway, Cream has a Chaos Emerald for some reason in her hand, and Eggman just yoinks that away from her. I guess she wasn't holding on to it very tightly. And then he gives it to Chaos, who now, because of that, has bones in his right arm. I never thought about how like weird and like body horror, like Lovecraftian-esque this is, but it really is. Chaos is like a Lovecraftian monster now. Like, he's unexplainable. He's kind of just a blob. He could turn into like whatever. Like, if you try to explain Chaos to somebody as like this water monster thing that kind of has limbs but sometimes doesn't, and can like go into the sewers and like all this other stuff, yeah, it's given Lovecraft. Sonic is Lovecraft? Also, Eggman says that Chaos is made out of pure chaos. Put a pin in that as well. But also, what the fuck does that mean? Like, put a pin in it for the sake of Sonic lore, but in the case of the show, what does pure chaos mean? Like, we don't ever actually get an explanation of what that is. Now, if you're a Sonic fan and you know the Sonic lore, then you know that he was the guardian of, like, the Master Emerald, and a lot of stuff happened with that, which we'll get to as the season progresses. But Eggman never explains what, like, pure chaos is. And I wish he did, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Anyway, this episode is long. We're like 15 minutes in, and I'm just explaining the first episode. So regardless, Knuckles comes in. Knuckles and Sonic eventually defeat Eggman and Chaos in this, but we all know that Chaos will be back. So actually, everything I just explained about Chaos coming from the Master Emerald is immediately explained in episode 2, so we're already off to a good start here. We don't have to wait halfway through the season to get any type of explanation. In fact, you'll start to see that things are going very fast. Maybe a little too fast. It is no wonder that for the longest time, I thought Sonic lore was this jumbled, tangled mess. And it is, don't get me wrong. But there are specific events that happen that make sense now that I know Sonic lore and of some of the games. I haven't actually been able to play some of the games because I just don't have access to them. But now I know a lot of the Sonic lore, and it makes sense, kind of. It makes sense enough, right? But imagine my first introduction into this lore being this world, okay? This world of Sonic X. There are a grand total of, like, I want to say maybe 4 to 5 different game plot points in this one season alone. from different games, mind you, from completely different games. There's like, I think 3 to 4 different games that are referenced in this show, in this season alone. So imagine a 7-year-old who doesn't know anything about Sonic lore trying to make sense of all of this. Yeah, needless to say, I grew up with a very warped and tangled sense of what Sonic lore was. The Master Emerald is also shattered, which is why Chaos was able to be let out and roam around free. Also, Knuckles can use the Force. Next question. He also is able to time travel. Not really. He has Force projection dreams where he's able to see the past, in which he sees Tikal. And Tikal is his great-grandmother, his grandfather, mother, daughter, his like great-grandmother or grandmother or something. Anyway, she was a part of a tribe of echidnas, and this tribe of echidnas really wanted to use the Chaos Emeralds and the Chaos Emeralds power to be powerful, essentially. They just wanted to be powerful, and they wanted to use the Chaos Emeralds to do that, to do some dastardly deeds. And we get some really interesting backstory for the Chaos Emeralds and how they work. Essentially, the Chaos Emeralds work off of the user's inside like wants and needs and wishes. So if I wish to be all powerful and to destroy the world and stuff like that, then the Chaos Emeralds are going to respond to that and give me energy of like pure evil. But if I have a pure heart and I'm like nice and I just want to save the world, or I just want to bring peace to it and whatever, the Chaos Emeralds will give me that power to bring peace to the world, essentially. So that's why Sonic gets the Chaos Emeralds. He goes supersonic and he's doing it for the sake of saving the world. Meanwhile, Eggman can also get the Chaos Emeralds and do bad with them, and the Chaos Emeralds won't bat an eye. Basically, the Chaos Emeralds have no morals. They're morally gray, if you will. Now, I will say all of this explanation comes in bits and pieces as Knuckles constantly travels back in time to see the story of Tikal trying to stop her tribe from taking over the Chaos Emeralds and using them for evil. Obviously, we can see how that went. I'm sorry, girl. I'm real sorry. But anyway, in present time, Sonic and Tails are trying to find a Chaos Emerald. They do end up finding it, but Chaos also finds them along with Dr. Eggman. And they have this really big plane battle, and the bad CGI is back. But overall, they end up losing, and Eggman gets the Chaos Emerald. Meanwhile, while all this is going on in the next couple of episodes, we get Amy conversing with this badnik who somehow escaped and has this Chaos Emerald like around their neck. And she just becomes friends with this little birdie thing. And she promises this little birdie to go save her friends who are also trapped under Eggman's grasp, as we know to be inside of all of the Omega. Well, they're not all called Omegas, but like, you know what I mean. Inside the little robot suits that we now know to come as Omega. Also, another thing that I messed up for the last time, I said that the robots, Eggman's henchmen's robots names were Boko and Doko. They're not. They're Boko and Deco. Like robots, like Boko, Deco, I don't know. They're still the funniest. They're still the funniest. I love them so much. They get so much of a more prominent role in this season, especially towards the end of the season, and I love it so much. They knew they were fan favorites. I feel like everything I said in my first video, they kind of fixed in this season. So maybe like they listened to me, retroactively went into the future to find this video and went back and then made season 2. Anyway, so for some reason, and I don't remember why, but Froggy has a Chaos Emerald. I think he swallowed a Chaos Emerald. He also has bits of chaos inside of him as well. So everybody is after Froggy in this episode. Eggman specifically calls out all of the robots to go find him. Omega finds him. Or is it Gamma? Gamma. Sorry, not Omega. Is it Omega? Is his name not Omega in the games? But they called him Gamma in the show. Should I call him Omega or Gamma? I wrote down Gamma in my notes, so I'm going to say Gamma because I think that's what they call him in the show. I could be wrong about that, though. If I'm wrong, I'll just fix it in editing. Anyway, Gamma finds Froggy, and Eggman's like, good job. Now you get to watch all of your siblings die. And he dismantles all the rest of the robots for literally no reason other than the fact that they didn't find Froggy. Like, statistically, only one of them was going to be able to find Froggy. Anyway, he watches all of his sibling dies, and something, like, changes up here. Something changes, and he's just like, aha. He also helps Amy and them escape because Amy got captured at some point, and she's like, oh, you're such a good robot. You have life inside of you. You have morals. I love you. Do good. He's fighting Sonic, and Amy's like, no, don't fight him, Sonic. He's a good robot. He can be good. It's all Eggman's fault. Whatever. And Sonic's just like, okay, sure, girl, sure. So for the next couple episodes, like, take place on the egg carrier, and Eggman is just like obviously trying to fight Sonic and trying to get Froggy, and Chaos is there and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, Amy is trying to convince Gamma to be good, and Gamma actually ends up being good. Like he flip. I can't snap with this hand. He Yeah. A flip switches in his head and he's just like, oh, I want to be good now. We're going to try to be good. So he tries to convince all of his robot friends that, hey, we need to be good. We need to be good. It's okay. I can save you. Fuck Eggman. Let me tell you guys. And one of his robots that I guess he was trying to fix end up not being good in the end. And they end up like fighting each other and trying to get at each other's throat and be like, Eggman is my master, blah, blah, blah. You're not my master, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, we don't have to do this. You could be free, my brother. You could be free. Anyway, he ends up killing him because he's like, I can't do anything else. And then the birdie that was inside, there was like 2 other birdies. The birdie that was inside of that blue robot ends up setting free. But then in doing so, Gamma dies. And his directive was to then help Amy get all the birds free. So the bird that was inside of him gets set free. And with that, his directive is now finished and he dies. And we don't get to see him for the rest of the show. I was really hoping for Team Dark because I know Shadow shows up in this. So I was really hoping for some Team Dark action. We don't actually get that at all because Rouge and Shadow also don't really get along at all. Maybe in the next season, which like, oh, we'll get to that. But like, we didn't get any of Team Dark. In fact, we got Team Hero or Team Light, whatever the fuck their names are, but minus Tails in this. Like Tails, Rouge replaced Tails in this, and I don't know why. I don't know why, but we'll get to all that later. But yeah, so that was the end of that like full run of episodes. So we get that mini arc with like Gamma/Omega in this, but he's gone and he's not there for like the rest of the episodes. Also, I wrote this down and I have to tell you this. I used to ship Tikal and Knuckles. I used to ship them. I need you to know my only reference was Sonic X. And I need you to know there was nothing in Sonic X that ever said that they were related. Never. They never said that they were related. They just were like obviously from the same tribe, but they never said that they were related. And they don't ever actually really interact with each other because Knuckles can't interact with her in the past timeline. He can only see what's happening to her. So I don't know why I ever shipped them together. Maybe because they were just from the same tribe or like whatever the fuck. Girl. I did not know they were related. I'm sorry. Anyway, I just so you know where 7-year-old me's head was at. Okay, a little bit more tidbits about this half of an arc, because I'm gonna do this by arcs instead of by episodes, just so it goes a little bit faster. The advisor dude to the president got fired. Like, he just got fired and now he just lives on the street. Like, he doesn't get a job, which I guess is because no one wants him to get a job because he used to work with Eggman, which, like, I get. But also the president works with Eggman at some point. Like, and he's still the president. Like, I feel like that's called for impeachment at that point. But anyway, yeah, he's living on the streets now. And he's just like this, throughout the entire episode, he's just like this crazy unhoused person for the rest of it, which, like, okay. And so I guess they try to make up time for what they missed in the last season, not really giving any other characters any type of character development. I do mean they gave like no characters character development. So in this season, they really tried to up that ante by giving all these characters a lot more of their OG personalities, which is fine, except they clash a lot with the first season. So much to the point where we could just kind of throw the first season out like as just like this pilot and not really anything substantial, because everything changes a lot especially about the personalities of the characters in this season. Specifically Tails. Like, Tails in the first season wasn't very cowardly, like, at all. Like, he was willing to get up and rough and tumble. Like, he's fighting like everybody else. So now in this season, suddenly it's like, oh, I'm not gonna run away anymore. I'm not gonna hightail and run like I used to. And it's like, but we never see him do that. Like, not even in a flashback. We don't even get a flashback where he does that, like, at all. So him saying that is really weird and just trying to be like, but what would Sonic do? And he has like a couple of moments like these, which are cute, but like when you think about it in the sense that like he never really got to be cowardly in the first place, doesn't really make sense that now he's trying to be brave, you know? But anyway, it doesn't matter because Eggman tries to be a terrorist again by dropping a bomb. This all happens within the same episode, by the way. He tries to drop a bomb in the middle of a city. Like, this is just the last half of an episode. He tries to do that and Tails is like, what would Sonic do? And he defuses the bomb and everybody loves Tails now. It doesn't really go anywhere. Like, that love for Tails doesn't really go anywhere, but it's still like, it's there, so I thought I'd mention it. So back to Chris. Yeah, Chris. Remember, he's supposed to be the main character, which I'm not mad that we get a little less of Chris in this, but we do get more Chris, like, character development in this, so I'm not mad that we see a little bit less of him, but a little bit more of his character and his personality, which I really like, especially towards the end. Oh, it gets so juicy. It gets so good. Anyway, Chris is not going to school, which, like, I'm not surprised. Would you go to school if you had the opportunity to be on adventures with your cool furry friends and save the world? Would you be worried about getting up at 8 a.m. to go to school? No, I don't think so. I wouldn't. Now, for some reason, Sonic also can get transported back into the past there's no reason for him to do that, I guess, for the sake of like him being the final one to get under Chaos's skin and like really defeat him. I guess it makes sense so he can know all of this knowledge, but really I liked it better when it was just Knuckles because he has a low link to this tribe that is his ancestor there, so it makes a lot more sense. He could have just told Sonic all this information, but whatever. Sonic is also there in the past, and they see Tikal, and we see her like trying to fight and be like, no, don't do this, don't do this. She's speaking to Chaos inside of the Emerald, and she's like, I don't know what to tell you. They're about to like trample me over. Needless to say, they trample her over. Her own tribe tramples her the fuck over and uses the Chaos Emeralds for evil, which causes Chaos to have a lot of hatred in his heart, which is why he's trampazing. That's not a word. Trampazing? I don't know. He's going all over the town and wrecking shit because he hates humanity now. This is also where we find out that Chaos is actually a mutated Chao. So he comes from like the Chao people. I don't know. The games explain it better, and not even really the games. I think people just have like kind of put two and two together about him being a mutated Chao. So I don't have like a direct source to like point you to. Definitely Sonic Adventure 1, but like if you want to know about Chaos, like, oh, there's so many video essays about it, okay? But he's basically a mutated Chao. So that's why all the Chao love him, and it's very important for, like, later on. I also love Chao, like, so much. Like, the concept of Chao is so cute, especially in, like, Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. I need you to go watch this 2-hour long video essay. I don't care. After this one. After this very probably 2-hour long video essay. Yeah, anyway, I forgot what I was saying. The recording stopped, but, like, yeah, go watch that 2-hour video essay about Chao. I love it so much. It goes really in depth about the Chao and the different types of Chao you could have, which I didn't even know that. Anyway, commercial over for this video. Anyway, so Chao, cheese, cream, cheese, the Chao, is trying to communicate with everybody that he's just like misunderstood and, you know, we need to help him and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No one's listening to Cheese. Also, Mr. Stewart is there, but he does a lot more spy stuff this season. Again, all of my criticisms are being met. He's doing a lot more spy stuff this season. Also, for some reason, we don't find this out until like way later. He's not their teacher anymore. For some reason, they still call him his teacher, and he still like hangs around these children. That's kind of concerning. You're not their teacher anymore, but you're like hanging around these children. Like the teacher was a good cover, but now you're not a teacher anymore, but you're still around the yeah, if I was in this universe, I would have called the police. I would have called the fucking police. Anyway, at this point, you know, Chaos has a lot of Chaos Emeralds, and he's causing rampage around the city, and he doesn't even take orders from Eggman anymore, and Eggman's like, maybe this isn't the best thing. I don't know, like, I'm not benefiting from this anymore, so it's kind of bad. Anyway, Eggman decides to join the winning team to help stop Chaos, but no one can do it. No one can do it, and then Tikal comes down from the sky. Astral projects down from the sky, and it's like, hey guys, we need to put him away and seal him back in the Master Emerald. And Sonic is like, absolutely not. Somebody else could just come along later and do the whole thing over again, and we don't want that to happen. Now, in the games, this is slightly different. He says no because he doesn't want Tikal to be trapped in there with him, because that was the whole thing, is that the both of them were trapped inside the Master Emerald. And Sonic is like, I don't want you to be trapped in there too. That's like unfair to you. Do you deserve to like rest in peace? But in here, he's just like, no, somebody else could just come along again and do it, which like makes a lot more sense. But I think the game one is like a lot more personable, and it's like, oh, Sonic's such a good guy, he cares about people, he cares. And this one, he's like more logical, like, girl, no. So for some reason, the gang has a bunch of drained emeralds. They just have a bunch of emeralds that have been drained of their power. It doesn't matter because they can still use them for some reason. What is the point of them being drained if they can still give people power? I guess the whole thing about like it comes from within, the power comes from within with the emeralds and like whatever. Anyway, they give them all to Sonic, and Sonic goes Supersonic and fights Chaos. Anyway, they fight, they do the damn thing. Sonic ends up beating him, but like not before the whole town is like ravaged. And it actually comes into play. There's actually lasting consequences for the things that like the villains do in this season, and I love that a lot. You'll see later, especially with the whole Shadow arc. I love that a lot. Anyway, Sonic ends up defeating him, like just into a million different pieces, and the day is saved, and Sonic is once again a hero. And the Chao are like, hey, girly pop, to Chaos. They're like, come. Let's just go chill in the afterlife. Let's be calm. Okay, let's be calm. And then Tikal is like, oh, thank you so much. You guys are so great. And she also floats off into the afterlife with Chaos. And that was the end of the season. That was the end of episode 6. Yeah, that was episode 6. Which, like, this feels like a season finale. No, the big fight against Chaos and Sonic feels like a season finale because it was the entire end to Sonic Adventure 1, right? This is episode 6. We're on episode 6 here. Yeah, I said I was gonna go through this of arcs instead of episodes because it makes more sense. Because like I said before, there's like 1,000 different plot points shoved into this one season, and it's better to just go by the sections of the arcs in this than episode by episode, because we'd be here all day. Anyway, on to the next arc. My favorite arc before season 3. Shadow. Yes, the moment we all have been waiting for, Shadow the Hedgehog. But before we can get there, we need to see the ramifications of what chaos just caused. Like I said, we get to see the actual consequences. People are displaced. This whole town is absolutely ravaged, and there are children crying. People died. Probably. People, they don't absolutely say it, but like, people definitely died. The city is in a state of emergency. Look at these buildings. People died, and it's gonna get kind of a lot darker from here. A lot darker. So Sam Speed, the ginger Chris's uncle Speedy guy, he's now a driver for the president, which like that job doesn't last very long, because by the end of the season he's back to being like a police officer person. So why was he a driver for the president? I don't think they knew what to do with his character, so they were just like, we'll make him a driver for the president. Why not? He doesn't even get to go fast. He just drives a normal car. Who knows? He's just there to like put in little injector for Sonic whenever the president and the president's new advisor, this lady, she did something to me as a kid. Whenever they say something that's against Sonic, he's there to be like, actually Sonic's pretty cool. So now I don't understand this part about Chris. Again, I know I haven't really mentioned Chris because he's not really in this a whole lot. Like, you know, they took the criticism, they took it. Chris isn't really in this a whole lot until later with Shadow, but right now he's almost kind of gets written out of the show for like a hot second because his house is flooded, and so he has to go live in like a caravan or something. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense because there's no point to it. Like, there's no point for him like being away. Like, he gets really sad about it, and he's like, I gotta live away from like my parents and stuff like that, but it has no bearing on the plot, like whatever, like at all. Anytime they need to go do something, they just go do it. Like, he's not living very far away from anybody. He is technically in a new town, and someone does like he's in a new town with new children in a new school and like whatever. He's not there for very long. Like, it has no bearance on the plot other than like one conversation he has with this kid who's like, oh my god, Sonic is so cool, don't you think? And he's like, yeah, Sonic is cool. And he's like, yeah, maybe we'll get to see Sonic one day if we're lucky. Ha ha ha. And Chris is like, yeah, my best friend is Sonic and they don't know. and that nothing ever comes of that later. Like, maybe they had something for that and they were just like, scrap it, nobody cares. Anyway, it goes absolutely nowhere. So now Eggman is trying to hack into the government to get access to their plans because they're making robots made from like Dr. Eggman stuff to work against him. And he's like, that look a little familiar. Why are they making robots that kind of look like my robots that I like to make? That don't make no sense. So he hacks into the government, just the government at large, and finds out that number one, he is from this planet. Remember in my last video when I talked about the fact that he doesn't seem to know that he's from Earth and that he is human? That turns out to be true. Yeah, Eggman finds out that he's human and that he's from Earth in this episode. He's just like, oh wait, my grandfather was here. And I don't know how he does, like, just because somebody has your last name doesn't mean you're related, right? But he automatically says like, oh, this person has my last name, we must be related, he kind of looks like me, we must be related. Like, did he not think he was human at all, or that he was from Earth at all? Like, girl, whatever. He figures that out. Gerald Robotnik, who was in charge of Project Shadow, he worked on a space colony called the Ark. I'm so happy to be talking about this right now. Now, I will say this. He automatically knows who Maria is. And I know we just need... Maria is the keyword. Maria is the sleeper agent word, okay? Take a drink every time someone mentions the word Maria. Even Shadow. You can just do one character. Take a drink every time Shadow mentions Maria. You'll be dead by the end of the episode. But anyway, we also find out that the universe, the Mobius world that Eggman and friends come from, is actually a parallel universe to Earth. That comes up later. That is not important for right now, but it's very important later on in the season. But it's just, they set it up now, which I guess is nice because they plant that seed in your head that there are two parallel universes here, and that's where Sonic and friends come from. So we're moving a mile a minute, but stick with me. Gerald talks about how he's just finished his ultimate life form creation, Shadow, and that he hopes that Shadow will bring total destruction to the world. Now, I feel like we're missing a few steps, but like, that's a plot twist for later, so don't worry about it. Rouge is also working for the government still. Like, okay, girl, go girl, give us nothing. Go girl. Also, the reporter lady starts to become this important character, and you'll find out again later, a little bit later, about why she starts to become this important character. But she starts to investigate things about the Ark because she just wants to. Listen. We just need somebody to uncover the human stuff about what's going on the Ark, and this is how we do it. It's interesting enough, but like, is there. Just know that she's there investigating with Mr. Stewart, and they have a little flirtationship going on. And they are trying to uncover secrets about the art. So Rouge is trying to steal the Master Emerald for her own gain. She's trying to trick Eggman into believing that he could help her or that she could help him, but really she's working for the government and she's like being a spy for the government. But she steals the Master Emerald to give to Eggman as kind of this peace offering, and her and Knuckles, the sexual attention between these two. I wonder why, like, out of all the ships in Sonic, that one was always the biggest one for me, like more than like Sonidao and everything. And it's because of the show. It's because of they are hardcore flirting in this. Hardcore, and it does not let up. Anyway, Dr. Eggman infiltrates the base where Shadow is being kept. It's called like Prison Island. What a fancy name. Prison Island, where he finds Shadow and breaks him out of prison. And now Shadow is like, oh, I am indebted to you. Like, you are my master now. Like, like, I don't know why. Like, okay, Shadow. Okay, and I think in the games, him and Eggman just have similar goals, or Eggman, like, tricks him into working with him. In this, he's just like, well, you're the one who woke me up, so guess I'll do whatever you want me to do now. Our goals just happen to align, but, like, I'm just gonna do whatever you want me to do regardless. So Shadow does what? You guessed it, immediately becomes a terrorist. So he's doing all this terrorist stuff around the city, and Sonic is being mistaken for him, so he gets taken into custody. Thus, we get the scene at the beginning of Sonic Adventure 2 where he's in custody in the airplane? No, it's a helicopter. So Sonic's in custody, and he's like, why am I in custody? And everyone's like, Sonic, you're being so bad. You're causing all this ruckus and muck. And Sonic's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but like, okay. He breaks out of the helicopter, and he goes down. Now, this is the beginning. This mirrors the beginning of Sonic Adventure 2, right? Where did the snowboard come from? Where did the snowboard come from? Where did this, like, piece of shrapnel that broke off of, I guess, the helicopter, which, like, Sonic doomed those people. He probably killed those people. Like, Sonic definitely has a body count in the show. Like, absolutely. And he does the little Sonic Adventure 2 thing for, like, 2 seconds. 2 seconds. He's on that thing for like 2 seconds. I don't know if they play the music. I know in the Japanese version, sometimes they play music from the games in the show, but I don't know if they definitely didn't in the like English version, because I guess that was like for TV and they didn't bother to like do anything for like home video, but like whatever. So he does the Sonic Adventure 2 thing for like 2 seconds. Woo! Moving around at the speed of sound, got places to go, gotta follow my rainbow. Anyway, you get it. Anyway, I think that everybody in this town is colorblind, because I know they try to make it seem like this person that looks like a hedgehog, Shadow, who looks like Sonic with the lights off, right? That's the whole point. But Sonic and Shadow have such distinct silhouettes that it's really kind of like, even as a kid, I was like, that clearly is not Sonic. Like, what are we playing at here? That is so obviously not Sonic. Why is everybody like colorblind in this universe? I do not understand. And of course, all the friends are like, oh, that's not Sonic. That can't be Sonic. And Grandpa's like, no, that's Sonic. That's Sonic. And everyone's like, bro, like, who's the fuck side are you on? Like, Grandpa tries to be the voice of reason in this season, but he just kind of end up being an asshole. And this is one of those times where he's just like, no, that's fucking Sonic. We need to call the police. And they're like, what? Dude, what the fuck? Anywho, Sonic is now an enemy of the state, which he will be again by the middle of this season. But there he is, the boy of the universe. He's so smug in this. Like, we get to see him emote a lot more. I know, like, future iterations of Shadow really try to make him the stoic, like, I never smile type of thing. Like, no, he's smug. He's smug as fuck. Like, he gets smug, especially around Sonic. He gets a little smug, and he has a little bit of a tude, okay? He has a little bit of an attitude, all right? He's a little smug about his stuff. All right, let him be smug. Let him smirk. Okay, he does it a lot in this show, okay, and I love it so much. I don't know why we stopped doing that, okay? He can still be an edgelord, okay, while being smug and a little silly, all right? Anyway, Sonic goes to jail. Sonic is really cryptic in this season. He, like, just does things, and he's just like, okay, I'll go to jail. My friends got me. I'll go to jail. I'll go do this thing. Fine. Okay. Like, he doesn't really fight back a lot in this season, which I know it's to, like, give other characters a chance to shine and, like, do things to show that, like, Sonic has friends and, like, a support system around him, but it gets to a point where it could be a little bit out of character sometimes. The last time he does this in this season, it's really good, but like these first couple of times he does it, it seems really jarring and kind of like out of character for him, but it gives other characters a moment to shine, so who cares? So Rouge, by the way, is also striking a deal with Eggman, but Shadow is very suspicious of her. So everybody is convening on Prison Island. All Sonic and friends, well, not Sonic, and friends are trying to rescue Sonic and break him out of prison. Meanwhile, 2/3 of Team Dark RIP Omega / Gamma, are trying to also steal Chaos Emeralds that are for some reason on this prison island. When I tell you, there's no reason why Chaos Emeralds will be where they are. Like, at some point the government has Chaos Emeralds. At some point Chaos Emeralds just happen to be in the nearest vicinity. Chaos Emeralds are in this show, in this season specifically, wherever they need them to be. Like, the first season really emphasized like trying to track them down and find them. This season, it's like, we're gonna go find a Chaos Emerald, and they find it within like an hour. Okay, they're like, we just need to go find a Chaos Emerald. Okay, boop, we found it. Like, there's no searching for these Chaos Emeralds, they're just there. Anyway, Sonic breaks out of his cage because he could have done that at any given time. He was just waiting for his friends to come get him. Love that for him. Anyway, for some reason the prison like blows up. It blows up, but Shadow and Chris are still on the island, and it's like, oh my god, did they survive? Did Shadow leave Chris to die? No, Shadow didn't leave Chris to die. Why? But to the other side, it looks like Chris has gone missing, so Sonic takes the initiative to go find them. Finally, we get to see the other side of this best friendship, so-called, that Sonic and Chris have. Okay, we actually get to see Sonic do things for Chris, and not just Chris doing things for Sonic, and Sonic actually caring about Chris's well-being and his whereabouts. Love that. It actually makes them seem like they're good friends. Thank you. Anyway, Shadow did save Chris, and they get yoinked into space onto the Ark colony. Maria! I'm sorry, I had to do it. I had to fucking do it. So Eggman now kind of owns the space Ark colony, and he's using it as like a normal battleship, right? And this is where all of the stuff with Project Shadow happened, in space right above Earth. So Shadow and subsequently Maria, which is the human girl that he used to live with, that was also Gerald Robotnik's daughter, they all lived on this Ark. And Maria and Shadow specifically never made it down to Earth, and they always wanted to go to Earth. That was like their dream. Anyway, Eggman blows up half of the moon. Just randomly. I guess that's just like a show of power to say, ha, I could do it. He blows up half of the moon. And I hope you know the moon stays half blown up. Like, it never it gets fixed, but like the moon is permanently blown up now. The tides, Eggman, think of the tides. Mr. Tanaka is just, joins them on a lot of these adventures throughout this season. I know I haven't really talked about him, but he's kind of just there, like, helping out with everybody. He's like the adult in this situation, though he doesn't really act like one. So everybody convenes in the space station, Sonic and friends, to try and get Chris back from space. So they're about to go into space. Tails has worked really hard on the X-Wing to make it space inhabitable, which, like, it already was before, but I guess now he made like an actual proper like spaceship, I guess. But it only seats like 4 people, and they need Chris to be able to come back with them. So really it only seats like 3 people. And so they're like, oh man, what are we gonna do? Also, Topaz is there, and Topaz and Mr. Tanaka start flirting with each other. Like, that becomes a whole thing. Girl, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, Tails is like, what are we gonna do? We can't take everybody. And then Sonic's like, okay, so then why don't we just take that spaceship that's like over there? And Tails is like, I worked so fucking hard on this goddamn fucking spaceship, and you want to tell me we're going to take just the space shuttle that's right fucking there? Anyway, I feel really bad for him. He worked really hard. That was like 2 episodes worth of work. He was like working in the background. Anyway, they take the space shuttle to space because they just know how to drive the fucking space shuttle to space, and they crash land onto the Ark, and havoc ensues. So when I talk about more plot lines for more games getting added, here it goes. So Rouge is rooting around the files about the Ark to try and give something back to the government and find, she's just like full gung-ho about the government now. Again, no reason why. She has no want to really work with the government other than her own means or like whatever, but like at this point all she wants is jewelry. So like no one really cares. So she's just working for the government of her own free will and volition because I guess she likes Topaz, her bestie. That's her bestie right there. That's her bestie. But anyway, she's finding all this stuff and she finds out that like, hold on, wait a minute. The original prototype, the Project Shadow prototype, was sealed away. And then when the Ark blew up and like, well, not blew up, but like when Maria saved Shadow, 2 pods escaped from this like Ark, and they were technically never found. So if 2 + 2 is 4 and 4 + 4 is 5, then that means Shadow isn't the original Shadow. Oh my god, y'all. If you guys know anything about the whole Shadow clone thing, it's a very hot contested item of whether or not that should have been added to Shadow's story. But essentially, let me how to break it down. After Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow sacrifices himself, right, at the end of Sonic Adventure 2. So he seems like he's dead. And the reason why is because they thought that was going to be the last Sonic game that they ever made. So they were like, well, let's go out with a bang. Shadow's dead. He sacrifices himself. You know, he was kind of evil the whole time. He becomes good, and he sacrifices himself because of it. However, in the next game, which is Sonic Heroes, they're like, oh, Shadow's back because we need him to be a part of Team Dark. And they're like, okay, but like, why is he back? And the whole thing in the lore of that game is that they don't know why he's back. Like, nobody really knows, though it's hinted that Rouge kind of knows, but like, No one really knows. So they're like, oh, okay, whatever. He's just back. And then in Shadow the Hedgehog, which is the next game after that, they're like, oh, technically he could be a clone. Because apparently, I don't know who, I guess Gerald Robotnik? I don't know. Somebody made a bunch of clones of Shadow, of the ultimate life form. I guess once they made one, they could make a bunch. So they made a bunch of clones of him. And so the insinuation is that he could possibly be a clone and not the real Shadow. And so that's kind of the crux of the like game, is like, is Shadow the real Shadow? Where did he come from? Where is his allegiance? This, that, the third, whatever. It doesn't really matter, because at the end, he ends up being the real Shadow anyway. But the whole point, at least to me, I love Shadow's story in concept. I love his story in concept, because the whole point is that no matter where you come from, who has what plans for you, you are yourself, and you can make your own life and your own destiny and do whatever the fuck you want, right? The whole I am all of me, babe. So even if he was a clone, it doesn't matter. He has free will to do whatever he wants. And that's kind of the whole point of the clone thing in his story. So I don't mind the clone thing. Just, I understand, like, Shadow the Hedgehog is a mess. It's a mess. So they try to add the clone thing into the storyline. It goes nowhere. Literally, it goes nowhere. They never bring it up again about the whole thing about him being a clone or, like, whatever. He just says this offhanded comment of, like, even if I am a clone, I'm going to do what I was made here to do, or, like, whatever. So it never goes anywhere. It's just like, oh, I'm a clone. Okay, so, yeah, that's the lore of that, in case you were confused. So now we have Sonic Heroes and Shadow the Hedgehog imported into this season. There was no point to bring up the clone thing, especially because it doesn't go anywhere. Like, at least for right now, Shadow never talks about the fact that, like, he could possibly be a clone and not the real Shadow. It never goes anywhere at all. Rouge just says that to try and get under Shadow's skin, and it doesn't work. So on the human side of things, we find out that the reporter lady, whose name I forget, I'm sorry, I can only remember, you're lucky I even know Topaz's name, okay? I'm sorry, I don't know her name. The reporter lady finds out that her dad used to be a part of the ARC team, and then insinuating that he did die on the ARC for like some reason. So she's trying to figure out like what happened to the ARC for journalistic integrity, but also because she has a personal vendetta. She finds the last remaining human member of the ARC living in like a senior living home or something. She goes and she asks questions, and the dude is like, yo, leave me the fuck alone. And then the secret agents that I guess are trying to keep this covered up or go to attack them. Mr. Stewart is with them, by the way. And the dude who was there, who was a scientist, he wasn't a gun soldier, he was a scientist, so but he somehow knows how to fight. I don't know, man. He helps them escape, and then he tells them everything. And essentially, the story goes that most of the scientists aboard the ARC were just scientists trying to find out things about evolution and stuff like that for a better life and like whatever. They didn't know that there was any shady shit going on, but there was indeed shady shit going on. So when the gun soldiers show up, don't know why that's so hard to say, they wreak havoc, and they're like, where is it? Where is all the stuff? And they're like, bro, we don't know. We don't know. Now, obviously in this show, they don't insinuate that anybody died, but they insinuate that people died. And obviously Maria helped Shadow escape so that he wasn't captured by gun soldiers, but he gets captured anyway. It really sucks because it seems like Maria's like attempts were fruitless, but she ends up dying in the hands of gun soldiers, though I don't think it's explicitly said in this show, but that's how it happens in the games. And because of this, Gerald Robotnik swears revenge. So I don't know how this exactly works, because the whole thing is like Maria sends Shadow off before Shadow can be taken by gun soldiers. However, he still gets captured. So at some point, Gerald gets a hold of him again and is like, oh, actually, I want Shadow to do revenge on the gun soldiers. He reprogrammed Shadow. So Shadow was made after Maria's image. So he was originally really set to be good. But Gerald is like, fuck all the gun soldiers. They killed Maria, so you're going to get revenge for me. And in case that doesn't work, we'll find out later. In case that doesn't work, there's a fail-safe involved. But really, your job is to get revenge for me and kill all of humanity because humanity sucks. Right? So that's why Shadow is evil. Okay, so back in real time, all of this is happening. Shadow is explaining all of this to Chris, and Chris and him are having like this philosophical like conversation about like good and evil and all this stuff. And they're like staring out the window like Sonic is gonna come save me, you know, he's a real hero and blah blah blah. And Shadow's just like, bro, there are no real heroes. Everybody sucks. Humanity sucks. Dude, they all gotta go. And he's just like, no, Shadow, no, like, I know you're good. Think about it inside. You know you were probably made for good and not evil. Somehow Chris knows this. He just knows this. It's never explained why, but he just knows that Shadow was probably made for good and not evil. And they're having this like philosophical debate like back and forth about it. Meanwhile, Sonic and friends are on the ARC trying to find Chris, right? And Eggman tries to stop them. He traps Sonic and is like, we need you to leave. So he boots Sonic out of the like egg carrier and then proceeds to blow Sonic up in space. So Sonic is dead. Except, no, he isn't, because Sonic gets transported back onto the ship via teleportation. But is it teleportation? No, it's chaos control. That's right. The thing that Shadow could do, sorry, I forgot to mention, Shadow could do chaos control. That's like his power thing. He could take an emerald, just one, and do chaos control and transport himself anywhere, like teleportation style. And Sonic learns how to do that. Now, I don't know if Sonic ever learns in the games how to do that. He should know how to do it. Even if temporarily, Sonic should learn how to do chaos control. I think it would be cool. A more important thing that happens in this episode is that he does it with a fake Chaos Emerald. That's right, this entire time that Tails has been like souping up the X-Wing, he has been doing with fake Chaos Emeralds. Chaos Emeralds that Tails has reverse engineered to be used like a regular Chaos Emerald. It doesn't have the same amount of power, but he still was able to reverse engineer a Chaos Emerald. It is never brought up again. It's not brought up again in the show, at least in this season, and it's not brought up again in any game ever since. Why does Tails have this knowledge and it is never used? That's cool as fuck. Even if it's like temporarily, like you have a reverse engineered Chaos Emerald and then it just shatters and breaks after one use, right? To make it not be as powerful as a regular Chaos Emerald. He reverse engineered a Chaos Emerald to the point where Sonic can use chaos control on it. Like, hello? Never mentioned again. Never mentioned again. Like, why? Literally, why? Anyway, so Sonic knows how to use chaos control now, and he uses chaos control to transport himself back into the ship. And he was just banking on being able to do that, by the way. He was just in space, and he was like, oh, hope this works. And he transports back onto the ship. Thank God it worked. But it doesn't matter because they could breathe in space anyway, as we've seen. We also see Knuckles also breathe in space at some point during the season. So does it even really matter if you get shot off into space? Not really. Anyway, Chris and Shadow are still having this philosophical debate, and Shadow's just like, you know what? I'm gonna go fight Sonic, because Sonic's back on the ship, right? And they're like, peace out, I'm gonna go flirt with Sonic, pretty much. But also, Gerald Robotnik's failsafe kicks in, and his failsafe is to essentially just take the Ark and ram it into Earth and kill Earth. I guess it's a really big ship. I don't know how big the Ark is exactly, but I'm guessing it's pretty fucking big if it's gonna ram into Earth and pretty much kill Earth. So that's the plan. So we're on this countdown timer to do that, and even Eggman is like, whoa, destroying the Earth. Look, world domination I can get behind, but I draw the line at destroying the Earth. If the Earth is gone, there's nothing to dominate. So once again, Eggman is now on the side of the good guys, at least temporarily, to put a stop to the Ark falling into Earth. Now, this isn't exactly how it happened in the game. Things are like slightly different, a little slightly different, but you see the runtime of this video. We don't have time to do all this. We're moving on. So for some reason, Shadow ends up with Chris again, and Chris is like, dude, let me tell you, once again, you are made for good. You were made for good. There's no way that they made you for evil. He's like, oh my God, you're right. I was made for good. I'm shaped after Maria, and Maria was good. Therefore, I am good. So I'm going to help out everybody. So both Sonic and Shadow go supersonic, because that's just the thing that they can do. And they decide to, oh, sorry, I missed a spot. I missed a spot. The prototype, the original prototype that Rouge brought up to Shadow beforehand was actually the original Chaotix prototype Project Shadow thing. I don't know. It's a thing in the games. Don't worry about it too much. And it's this monster, Cthulian monster blob thing that like straps itself to the front of the ship and like tries to fix the cannon to like destroy Earth. And so then Shadow and Sonic go supersonic and fight this thing in space. All the stuff that's going on with the reporter lady, the reason why I haven't mentioned her a whole lot, because all of the culmination of her research and her getting all these sources and fighting off government agents culminates in one story, one line during this episode of just like, we found out that this was a government conspiracy and all this stuff was happening. She doesn't explain what was happening. She doesn't explain what the Ark is or anything on TV. She's just like, this was a government conspiracy. Anyway, hope the world is saved by Sonic and Shadow. And that's it. Like, that's all that culmination, all that side research, side shit that we saw culminates into just one line being said. And that's it. Yeah. Okay. Like, I actually liked the fact that they were doing that, like, half of, like, oh, let's figure out the human side of this. Meanwhile, Sonic and Shadow are doing their thing over there. I like that. I like that a lot. But, like, we don't, it goes nowhere. We don't get anything from it. Like, yeah, like, the audience gets the lore from it. But in the world, her doing all of this journalism and shit goes nowhere. But hey, she's a big shot reporter. So who cares? So lastly, Sonic and Shadow in their super forms fight this thing. They do chaos control one last time. They do a super Kamehameha, fucking Kamehameha, whatever the fuck, beam into the ship, and it blows up and everything blows up. And it's like, oh my God, are Sonic and Shadow dead? Well, Shadow is, but Sonic isn't. Okay. Okay, R.I.P. Shadow. And that was the end of episode 12. But I bet you thought that this was like the end of the season, right? We just took the Shadow story to the end of the season. No, that was the end of episode 12. Okay? All right, you got it? Yeah, on to episode 13. So episode 13, I'm going to give its own thing because it ends up being the only real filler episode. Well, actually, there are still a couple more filler episodes, but this is the only like real filler episode in this. In this, Chris is sad. We get to learn that Chris's default is just sad. He's just sad. Who knows why? He's just a sad boy. Anyway, things are crashing into the earth, and at this point, the president is like, all right, we got to figure this out. We can't have too many creatures on this island planet. We can't have too many creatures on this planet, so therefore we should put all of Sonic and people away. They need to leave. And this is so funny because this is talked about by Knuckles and Rouge. Like, they're just talking about this on the rooftop, and she's like hardcore flirting with him, while at the same time being like, yeah, our species may be rounded up and put into like jail or camps or something, but hey, at least I'll be with you, am I right? Like, girl, huh? Like, come on now. Read the room. Anyway, I can say this plot point goes absolutely nowhere because the whole point of saying this is just to introduce Team Chaotix, which is Vector, Charmy, and SBL. I love them so much. This is their one and only appearance in this season. Why? I don't know. I guess they're just a running gag character in this season. Their whole thing in this episode is that someone from their planet, they are detectives, by the way, someone from their planet tells them to go find Cream and Cheese. To go find them, and that they've been kidnapped and whatever. So they go find them, and of course they're with the Thorndikes and like all that stuff. Now this episode was so close to being a really funny episode, and they weren't racist. Once again, they get to the point and they see Ella and they're like, oh my god, Cream is being held by this like fucking monster lady. We need to get her. She's such a fucking monster. Ella doesn't even have like the musical sting, the racist musical sting is still there and all that stuff. But Ella doesn't have that much like to do in this season. We don't see her a whole lot. So we could have just not done that, but like whatever. Every other part of this episode is so funny. Vector is so funny. SBL is like the Shadow Light character. I remember when I first heard about SBL, everybody was comparing him to Shadow and how he's just Shadow because he's so edgy and blah blah blah. But the thing is, Shadow is edgy because he actually has things to be edgy about. SBL is edgy because he wants to be cool. Okay, he just wants to be cool. My man does poetry. He does poetry. He's a thespian. He's trying to be edgy because he wants to be cool. Okay? Like, that's the difference. That's the difference between SBO and Shadow. And it's so fucking funny because they show it perfectly in this episode. He's trying to be all cool and he ends up failing miserably. I love it so much. I love them so much. Anyway, the team tries to get Cream and bring her back. And we find out that the person who like told them to go get Cream ends up being Cream's mom. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear shit about Cream's mom, you fucking freaks. You freaks. She also has nothing to do with this season, like, at all. She's just kind of there. She really is just kind of there. There's no, like, plot line with her involved in it. She's literally just kind of there as being Cream's mom. Like, I could only say that dastardly things were about when she was put into the show, because why else would she be put into the show? Anyway, Eggman promises to fix the moon. He promises the US government, like, hey, bestie, I can fix the moon. I feel so bad, teehee. I feel so bad about blowing up the moon randomly, so can I, like, fix it and get back in your good graces? The president's just like, okay, sure, I'll trust you again. But if you do anything wrong, Eggman, like, come on now. The president should be in jail because of that. But anyway, Eggman actually does fix the moon. He does. He makes this like robotic thing to like go around the other side of the moon. So now the moon is its own robotic entity that can be piloted by Eggman. I want you to guess what happens. But first, let's end this episode. So Team Chaotic gets their shit beat out of by Sonic and friends, and it's funny. And that's it. That's the end of the episode. So let's talk about the moon, shall we? So the next set of episodes is following Dr. Eggman as he takes control of the moon. Guess what he does? He causes an eclipse to happen. He puts the moon in front of the sun and is like, oh no, whoopsie poopsie, looks like something happened and the robot wires got like mixed up, and unbeknownst to me, like it just was random out of nowhere, the moon now is blocking out the sun. That sucks. It's not my fault though. I'll fix it as soon as possible. But in the meantime, here's this new invention I made called sunshine balls that you guys could buy and put on your houses. So yeah, Eggman is, doing a little bit of fraud here and making a problem so then he could sell a product to fix it. So the entire next couple of episodes is just him with these fucking sunshine balls saying, hey, Girly Pops. Hey, Girly Pops, you should totally buy this thing. And everybody's eating it up. They're like, yum, yum, yum. Who needs real vitamin D when I could just have these sunshine balls? I just feel like the world would deteriorate a lot faster if we were stuck in a total darkness like this. Something like this would happen where somebody would be selling sunshine in like a bottle. It would happen. But it's just, I feel like physically we would deteriorate a lot faster. Anyway, Sonic is like, something shady. Something is real shady. So he just starts like destroying the towers that are powering these sunshine balls, but he's not explaining anything to anybody on why he's doing it. So everybody's like, Sonic is now again public enemy number one and needs to be thrown in jail because he's destroying the sunshine balls that are giving all light to people. Like, what the fuck, buddy? So everybody ends up tracking down Sonic. You know, Chris is trying to have faith in Sonic and be like, Sonic, man, like, I want to have faith in you, but I need you to explain to me what's going on. And at some point, Sonic is just like, time to take y'all to school. So if Eggman didn't put the moon in front of the sun and it just happened naturally on its own, why is the moon still in front of the sun? It's been longer than 24 hours. Now, I don't know about y'all, but if y'all know anything about an eclipse, it doesn't last for like 5 days. It lasts for 1 day, and then like, or however many hours, and then the orbit of the moon keeps going, and the sun is still there, right? Right? Because, you know, we orbit around the sun. And so basically this entire like conversation is just Sonic explaining the fact that the two Tails, the smart one, two Tails, and to Chris, who has at least an elementary school like level of education, if not a little bit more at this point, you should know what happens in the sun and the orbit. And he's explaining this and everybody's like, oh my god, yeah, you're so right, like no one ever thought of this before. Now, I love Sonic, and while yes, he's not the smartest tool in the shed, him figuring this out would have been fun. However, there are adults on this planet. There are professors on this planet. How come none of the humans who were fighting over these sunshine balls were like, wait a minute, if this is just an eclipse that Robotnik isn't using the roboticness of the moon to keep the moon in front of the sun, then the moon should have passed the sun by now. Nobody else thought of that? Like, I love that it's Sonic who like figures it out and doesn't feel the need to tell anybody, but he was just like, I thought everybody knew. Sonic, people were trying to throw you in jail. What the fuck are you talking about? Anyway, I think it would have been a lot better if like some people did know that this was supposed to be happening and it was the kind of this conspiracy, and then Eggman would have had to bluff his way out of it and be like, actually no, that's just a government conspiracy that they're trying to tell you, like no, like here's some bogus science shit on why the moon is in front of the sun. And that would have caused a further divide, because the whole thing is like some people are getting sunshine balls, some people aren't, and that is starting to cause a little bit of a divide between the people. So it would have caused more of a divide, I feel like, if some people didn't even believe that the sun was being blocked out on accident, that actually was being done on purpose. And meanwhile, you have all the people who have sunshine balls and is like, Eggman is fixing our problem like right now. Like, why are you trying to criticize him? Like, Eggman for president. Literally Eggman for president. I think that's the name of the next episode, like Eggman for president. So that would have been a lot more like of contention there, because otherwise you make everybody except for Sonic seem really fucking dumb. Like, especially Tails. Like, Tails definitely should have known this. Anyway, that's that little mini arc. Eggman gets thrown in jail at the end. This is another kind of filler episode where Sonic misses Amy's date, and Sonic also apparently had like a date race thing with Sam. And so Sam and Amy decide to basically go on a date without Sonic, to basically just complain about Sonic and all that stuff. And the whole time, this entire episode, Amy is just ranting about how Sonic isn't really like that good of a boyfriend person, like whatever. Like he was supposed to go on a date with her. Like that's what she says. Like there was a date that they were supposed to go on and he missed it, and he's constantly like not really being in her life, and she's like, why do I even like him anyway? Like whatever. And Sam is just kind of hinting at the fact that like, you know, Sonic, he does his own thing, you know the guy. Anyway, meanwhile, while all this is happening, Bo-kun is breaking this robot that looks very familiar out of like this little jail thing, and is trying to use him to break Eggman out of jail. And Sonic ends up getting caught up with them, trying to defeat them and like whatever. He does end up defeating them, and I don't know what happens to the robot that looks very familiar, but he's just there. He's the thing that exists now. We'll get back to him in a second. Anyway, the episode ends with Amy being like, maybe Sonic does have a point, and like not being around very often, because Sam takes her at like supersonic speed and she sees it and she's like, oh, this is kind of fun. Is this what Sonic does like all the time? I can see why he loves to run. Like I get it. It makes no sense for his flakiness, but like whatever. Sonic shows up and he's like, sorry, I missed our date, and then goes to Sam and is like, you ready to race, buddy? like what? Like, and that's how the episode ends. Like Amy gets no closure from that, And like, this is kind of the point where I'm like, I wish, like, we don't have to go full Son Amy on this, but like, why would you even say that she had a date with him if that's not what it was? Like, you could just say like, oh, we were supposed to hang out, or I've been really wanting to hang out with him and he hasn't been here. Like, that sucks. But like, trying to make it seem like they were actually a thing and Sonic is just a bad boyfriend makes no sense to me. Like, clearly they're not in this romantic relationship. Like, she could be a little bit delulu maybe, but like, to say that they had a date and that he just stood her up is kind of weird to me. I don't know. It's so largely unimportant to the large scale of the show, but like, I don't know. It's just a character thing, and I'm like, I don't like that, especially from our girl Amy. So everyone has Sonic fever and is running outside and freedom and this, that, the third. This little tidbit about everybody loving Sonic and wanting to embrace freedom comes back to play like in the season finale, but just know that everybody's loving Sonic to the point where he's becoming a cult phenomenon and everybody wants to be like Sonic and be free like Sonic and like whatever. Chris is sick. Eggman is trying to break out of jail because why wouldn't he be doing that? We get some really funny moments with Boko and Deco and Eggman together. They are my favorite trio so much. I love them so much. Anyway, this robot is named Emerl. It's spelled Emerl. It's spelled Emerl, but it's pronounced ML. So that's how I'm going to pronounce it. ML. So ML is this robot from a game called Sonic Battle, which I have played a little bit of when I was a kid. And I remember because I remember Emerl so clearly in my brain. I remember him distinctly from a pixelated game, and that has to be Sonic Battle. However, I do not own Sonic Battle, but I used to do this thing where I would like rent games. I don't know if it was from Redbox or from Blockbuster, somewhere. I used to rent games from somewhere, or I would get games from like other kids like on the playground and just play them and like borrow them and give them back. So at some point I did play Sonic Battle, even if it was for like 2 seconds. So that's where he is originally from. He can also copy Sonic's moves. Now for some reason he ends up on the good guy side, and Cream is like taking care of him and like teaching him the ways of the world. He can copy anybody's moveset at any time. Mr. Stewart sees Eggman and tries to catch him. However, the children see that Mr. Stewart is looking at him and is like, what are we doing? Oh my god, that's Eggman. We should totally catch him. And Mr. Stewart's like, no, children. That's way too dangerous. So he tries to go out alone. They don't know that he's a spy, by the way. He tries to go out alone, and they jump in the car with him and said, let's go get Dr. Eggman. And he's just like, okay. Child endangerment. Mr. Stewart. Child endangerment. And so they end up getting captured by Eggman because like of course they fucking do. And Eggman's team thinks that Mr. Stewart is a spy, and all the kids are like, Mr. Stewart's not a spy. And it just reminds me of this one scene from Spy Kids.
My parents can't be spies. They're not cool enough.
He's still doing all of his spy stuff while I guess trying to like, you know, act like a teacher in front of the kids. He makes this bomb and it's supposed to be a chemistry lesson, but I guess in not trying to actually show kids how to make a bomb, he's just like, here is this blue bottle and this brown bottle, and if I put the blue bottle in the brown bottle, it blows the fuck up. And you know, I guess trying not to tell kids how to make a fucking bomb, but like still, what the fuck, it makes no sense. Also, Cream, Cheese, and Emerl is there, so Eggman is like about to crush them, and Cream is like, Emerl, copy Rouge, because Rouge is there. I forget why Rouge is there. Eventually Rouge gets there, and Cream tells Emerl to copy Rouge's like battle stuff. So he copies her, because apparently that's just how it works, and they defeat Eggman and the day is saved. So this next little 2-part episode is a tournament arc for Chaos Emerald. I don't know, I cannot remember why the government, specifically the president, wants to put on this tournament, but he does. I have no reason, there is no reason why this was made, other than the fact that Dragon Ball Z does it like all the fucking time. It is literally a Dragon Ball Z reference like to a fucking T. So they have a bunch of people, it's an open casting call for this tournament, and almost immediately you could tell that they did not have enough characters in the show that warrant a big tournament, like fighting tournament, mostly because all of the characters are on the same side. The big like prize at the end is a Chaos Emerald, and this does make sense like later at the very end of this tournament, but most of the characters are on the same side, so it does not matter really who wins because all the characters are on the same side. Like all of the, like Dr. Eggman isn't in the tournament, but Boko and Deco end up in the tournament, but as soon as they start to fight, the police show up and they just run away. So they forfeit. It's actually really funny because I think they realized they wanted to do a tournament arc, but they realized they don't have enough characters to like actually warrant that being a thing. So instead they were just like, oh, let's just have it be a kooky little tournament arc where like half of the people really shouldn't be fighting. Like Ella is in there, the president is in there, Chris Chris's dad is in there at some point. Chris and Chris's only black friend, whose name I forget, is in there. It's really funny actually, because when Chris and his only black friend get up to like fight, he starts crying and he's like, I don't want to fight, I don't want to get hurt. And Chris's black friend is like, whoa, okay, it's fine, dude, we don't have to fight, we see we're not fighting. And he's like, hee hee, haha, I was joking. And then like disqualifies him, I think pushes him out of the ring or something, and then he wins. And then at the end, and then backstage, him and Sonic are like talking, and he's like, what, are you here to lecture me about like me cheating? Which I guess it wasn't really cheating, but it's like whatever. And he's like, I just wanted to know what it felt like to be bad for once. And he's like, it didn't feel good. And then Sonic's like, okay, so then don't do it again. And he's like, okay, I won't. Like, what was the point? I don't understand the point of that. Anyway, Chris fights his dad at some point and beats the shit out of his dad. Lucky is also in this, and he like has a little thing, and it's so cute. He's like winning most of his matches. At some point, Rouge and Knuckles fight, like the semifinals, like Rouge and Knuckles fight. When I tell you, the sexual tension was on 10. So she ends up getting a tent to fight him in because, you know, bats can see better in the dark or like whatever, and Knuckles won't be able to see. And I'm sorry, it just sounds like, y'all know what it fucking sounds like, okay? From the outside, y'all know what the fuck it sounds like. Anyway, she beats the shit out of him, but she ends up losing. And Knuckles wins. So Knuckles is going to the finals, I think. Yeah, Knuckles is going to the finals. The only other person who ends up in the finals is Emerl. And Emerl ends up in the finals because obviously he can copy everything. So he's beating the shit out of Knuckles. He's just like, I got you, dude. I can copy anybody. I still have all the repertoire of everybody else's like skills in my bank. So he's beating the shit out of Knuckles. So eventually Knuckles not throws in the white towel, like Cream throws in the white towel for him on accident, and she's like, oh sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And Knuckles is like, nah, I give up, bro, I give the fuck up. And so like ML is the winner, and everyone's like, woo yay, woo yay. Again, it doesn't matter who the fuck wins for the fucking Chaos Emerald because they're all on the same side, except no, because as soon as Emerl gets the Chaos Emerald, his programming reverts back to his old programming. Now, like in the Sonic battle game, he's like this ancient robot race of robots. I don't know. He was programmed, I guess, for destruction somehow, some way. There's lore. There's lore about it. There's lore about it. You could go look up lore about it. Look up 2-hour video essays. I don't care. So just understand that in the show, they say that he was made probably, they just say probably, he was made probably to destroy things, and the Chaos Emerald revert him back to his base programming, which was to destroy things. So now they have this big giant robot that is well, he's not big and giant, but they have this big bad robot that is destroying the city, and they don't know how to fight it. So they're trying to figure out how to fight this thing. Sonic is losing, Rouge is losing, Knuckles is losing, nobody knows how to fight this thing. So Cream is like, you know what, enough of this. I am his friend, I brought him into our circle and stuff like that. I feel really bad, so I'm gonna take responsibility and fight this thing. And they're like, Cream, don't do that, you're too sweet to do that, don't do that, Cream, don't do that. But she and Cheese start fighting Emerl, and Emerl doesn't know what to do. At first it's like, oh, maybe because Emerl like actually likes Cream, but no, he was literally about to kill her like 2 seconds ago. Turns out it's because Emerl can only copy one person's moveset at a time. So if 2 people are attacking him at the same time, he can't copy both of their moveset. He gets confused, his wiring gets confused, whatever, so he can get the shit beat out of him. And so Sonic and friends are like, oh, maybe well, actually not Sonic and friends said, oh, so let's go do this, let's go fight him. Like, now that we know this information, let's go fight him together. And Sonic is like, no, let Cream handle this. And she does. She fucking handles it, and she sends his ass into the ocean, and that is where he is for like forever. We never see him again. R.I.P. Emerl. I love him a lot as a kid. I think because I like the idea. I love robots like a lot, like the idea of robots in society and world and TV and movies and stuff like that. Especially robots that like learn to be good and learn to have humanity from being nothing. I love that so much. And Emerl was one of the first like robots I ever saw as a kid that was like that. So I really like that. I like that a lot, especially that Cream gets her like chance to shine. She got a lot of chances to shine in this like season. A lot. I really like that. Like they make her like a little integral part of it. I like that a lot. So these next couple set of episodes are not native to the games, I think, at all. Now, I could be wrong about this, but there's a whole world underground called MARIAAAAAA that somebody is trying to find, and Eggman is also trying to find it because he's like, it's a lost civilization. It could hold the keys to like ultimate power or some shit. These next set of episodes in Japan are based off of Japanese movies. So popular Japanese movies that were like out at the time or like were popular at the time. This is what these next couple episodes are based off of. Which you will see, like, you'll see like Star Trek, you'll see like a bunch of like egg boats and like all this stuff. Like the things that are going on on seem very, very random until you have that knowledge. Because I had to look it up on Wikipedia. I was like, what is going on here? Are these from a game or something? They're not from a game. They were just, the last couple of episodes before the season finale are just a string of episodes about this lost city that for some reason it has no bearing on anything. In fact, they leave the lost city at the end and it's just like, oh well, it's a lost city and they were highly technologically advanced or like whatever. And it's all, some of these episodes are like based off of Japanese movies. That's it. That is it. That's all you need to know about these next couple of episodes. They really have no bearing on the plot whatsoever. Chris is there. Chris actually does some pretty cool stuff. Like the things I would take away from this batch of episodes. A boat goes missing. Topaz is on it because she's a part of the government doing shady government stuff. Eggman is the one that took the boat and he's like gonna go find this underground city and they do end up finding it. There is also another government another government like subsection that like doesn't care about all of them. They look like Star Trek or Power Rangers or like whatever. They are like, we don't care that there's people on that ship. We're going to destroy the ship. And Ruth is like, no. So she goes into the ship to try and save them first and she ends up doing it and like whatever. That happens. Then the next couple set of episodes, they're in this underground city trying to find stuff. They find the city. There's a bunch of like ancient like robots and also ancient like monsters and dinosaurs and like whatever, and they all try to like kill the intruders that are upon their land. And there's a volcano and it ends up going off and it destroys, I think, the entire like underground thing. And the whole moral of the story, first of all, Boko and Deco leave Eggman because Eggman leaves them and is like, fuck y'all, I'm out of here. And Boko and Deco save Chris or sacrifice themselves to save Chris. They're not actually dead because no one stays dead in this show, but they sacrifice, you know, themselves to save Chris. And they're like, oh, Boko and Deco were really good at the end of the day. And Boko and Deco end up quitting Dr. Eggman to go work with Chris and them for like 2 episodes. It's like 2 episodes. It doesn't really matter, but it's really cute and I like it because I love Boko and Deco. Okay, they are so important. I love them so fucking much. I love them so much. They're both the funny man. You know, usually it's the funny man and the straight man. They're both the funny men in the situation. I love them so much. Anyway, they quit. That's all that happens. That's all that matters. There's like they get a. I don't think they get a Chaos Emerald. They already had one at some point. That's literally it. That was the whole point of that little mini arc of episodes. I don't know why it existed. I don't know, maybe just to pad the runtime because they needed to get to the 26 episodes, but it doesn't matter. So let's talk about the last like 4 episodes. So Chris has to write an essay on his dream, and Chris's dream is to be with Sonic and to help Sonic make the world a better place. Sounds kind of corny.
That sounds way too corny.
Yeah, it is. He's starting to feel very reminiscent about his time with Sonic, and he like reminds himself of like, oh, back in the day when Sonic fell into my pool and I saved him and my life has been changed all this time and blah 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 blah. This becomes important later. Just keep it in the back of your mind, right? Way back when I told you to put a pin in something else about the fact that Sonic's world and our world, the Earth world, is parallel universes, right? Turns out, for some reason, they just explained this. There's no real explanation for it. Just roll with it. It happens to be that these worlds used to be one. And then something happened. They don't explain what. Something happened that caused these 2 worlds to split apart, and they always run parallel to each other. But ever since Chaos Control happened and Sonic and the gang got transported over to Earth world, these worlds have slowly been colliding. And if they collide, time will stop and the world will basically end. So they're saying that we need to send Sonic and friends back to their own universe to prevent the world from ending. I don't understand it either. But like, let's just roll with it. So Chris finds this out and he's just like, distraught. He's like, Sonic and friends have to go back home again. We already went through this in the last season, but this time Chris actually gets to be selfish. This time Chris actually gets to be a child and not want his friends to leave, and it's so much better in the drama and the intrigue. Let's talk about it. Like, Chris actually kind of starts tweaking. Like, he's walking around acting possessed. He's like sad. He's not really talking to anybody. He like runs away like multiple times. So he runs away and he's like, Eggman has to be behind this. This isn't just some natural phenomena that is happening. He has to fucking be behind this. He gets Boko and Deco to take him to Eggman so that he can say like, I know you're up to this. I know you're up to this dastardly plan and we're gonna stop you. And Eggman's like, wait a minute, that's kind of a good plan. And he's like, yeah, I did do that. Yeah, I totally did that. And if Sonic doesn't leave, then it's all gonna be his fault or like whatever. And he's like, wait a minute, you're fucking lying. Like, you're literally lying. Chris is like, you're lying, dude, speak to me true. And he's just like, Eggman lays down some hard facts to this kid. He's like, listen, you're just upset because your adventures with your best friend Sonic are coming to an end and you will never see him again. Okay? And you're just upset about that and you need somebody to blame. That's why you're here. And Chris is like, oh, okay. And he's just like, take it from me, kid. Everything good that happens eventually ends. Just take it from me, kid. And then he runs off and he's like sad about it, and then Eggman has this thing where he's like, poor kid. Like, everybody feels bad for Chris, like, because eventually, like I said, Eggman is very comedic in this, and it's very heartfelt. It's very like, Eggman clearly also loves the fact that he has this back and forth banter with Sonic and friends, and so he feels for the kid because he knows that this will never happen again, and it's supposed to be like, it's this fun time for him, but like, it's never gonna happen again. It is like really like actually kind of like, oh, Eggman kind of spitting, like he's gonna miss Chris too, like that's, oh, Eggman, oh. Anyway, he comes back and he's like, I'm sorry for running off. Like, I know Sonic and friends have to go back to the universe. I'm just really sad about it. And everyone's like, it's okay, Chris. You don't need to face any of the consequences to your actions of being a brat today. Like, it's fine. Just go to bed, Chris. It's all gonna be fine. You don't have to go to school tomorrow, whatever. Like, in his head, he's plotting. This boy is plotting in his head. So at this point, the entire world kind of knows that Eggman and Sonic and friends need to go back into the world. Otherwise, the world will actually end and time will stand still. So everybody's just trying to be like, okay, time to get them to go. Except the military commander, the commander of the military, the US military, is like, fuck that. We are killing Eggman. Like, we are just gonna kill him, okay? This whole freedom movement is ass, okay? We're gonna kill Sonic, we're gonna kill Eggman, we're gonna kill all of them. Fuck all of them. So they send a bunch of their robot soldiers after them. They defeat them, and they end up arresting him. But I think that's really interesting that plot point kind of comes back around full circle with the idea of like everybody championing for freedom and Sonic and like whatever, because he's like, we used to be a proper country. That's literally what he says. He's like, we used to be a proper country, and now look at us, freedom. What the fuck is that? Anyway. It's such a random, like, nothing moment just to pad out the episode, but the fact that it had basis of something that's been happening the entire season of, like, people really loving Sonic and even Eggman to an extent is now coming back around. I actually really, really, really like that, even though this was, like, such a nothing burger of a plot point. So randomly, Chris's uncle, his name Chuck, not his uncle, his grandpa, Chuck and Tails decide that they could just make a portal to the next world. They just do it. They just do it. Like, they just do it. Like, no one talks about like how or why. They just do it. They literally just do it. So, okay, everybody, it's time for everybody to go back to their world. The portal is open, but they can only open it for so long. They're running out of power to like power it. They have like a Chaos Emerald. Chris is like standing there. He's dressed like he's gonna go to a funeral. Like, he's dressed in like a suit and tie. And he's just standing there. He is clearly like possessed. He's a shell of his former self. My man is not all right up here. He is not. He's just standing there like, my friends are leaving me, and I will be alone again, and I will be so sad. What the fuck? So anyway, people are saying their bittersweet goodbyes. Everybody's crying. It's all tearful, whatever. So one by one, they start walking through the portal, and they're saying bye and all this stuff. And Chris, you know, goes up to Sonic and is like, shakes his hand, and he's like, hey, you know, I'm gonna miss you so much, Sonic. Like, see you later, buddy. See you later. And Sonic's like, see you later, bud. And he walks through the portal. But right before Sonic can walk through the portal, Chris slams the button that, like, I guess just closes the portal and turns it off. And that's the end of the episode before... He literally, like, turns around. Sonic turns around in, like, slow motion. It's so dramatic. I was literally, like, I was like, whoa. Like, this is the drama I've been waiting for. When I said Chris needed to be more selfish because he's a child, and it makes sense that he would do something, like, as selfish as this, especially to give it drama, give his character more depth. This is what I was talking about. This is the drama. The drama. So Chris runs off with Sonic, and Sonic is just like, okay, and runs off with Chris as well, which is immediately suspicious because it's like, don't you want to go home? Like, he could easily just yank himself out of Chris's grasp and like go back and just be like, I'm leaving, I'm going home. But he ends up traveling with Chris. Like, Chris just fully runs away. Like, he gets on a bike with Sonic and they just run away. And the entire time it's very clear that Sonic is just letting himself run himself ragged, trying to get him to like figure it out. Like, he's just like letting Chris do whatever. He's like, where do you want to go, Chris? I don't care where we go. Like, I've kind of been everywhere on this planet, so you tell me where we should go. So they're like climbing through the woods and like all this stuff, and you know, Chris is going through it, like mentally he's going through it. And back at home, everybody's trying to call like a squadron and like whatever. His parents are like, we need to call a squadron to get everybody on there, because you know they're rich, right? If you forgot, Chris's parents are rich. And Chuck is like, shut the fuck up, don't do that. Don't do that. Why do you think he ran away? Yes, he wants to be with Sonic, but is that really the only reason he wanted to run away? Maybe he was afraid that if Sonic leaves, he'll be home alone again. Why do you think he's always home alone? And maybe it's because you guys are literally never there. Maybe you should go be actual parents. Go find your child. You know where he is. He ended up being at this like cabin that they always used to go to as kids when Chris was a kid. they used to go to it, but they stopped going to it after a while, and his parents became busier and busier and just had less and less time for their child. I love that that is making a comeback, because the whole point that Chris is sad and lonely, and Sonic ends up becoming his friend. So when Sonic leaves, of course he's gonna have some like mental issues with that. He's a child that never like, he had friends, but like he's alone most of the time. Now he has friends who are around him like 24/7, and now he's not gonna have that anymore, and his parents are just gonna go back to living their lives as normal, and he's gonna be all alone again. Yeah, that's bound to mess a kid up mentally. So Chuck tells him to go be parents. And they're like, we gotta go be with our child. We gotta go be with our child. And meanwhile, Chris and Sonic are having this conversation. And, well, really it's kind of one-sided. Because Sonic is like, I'll go wherever you want me to go, bud. Like, just do it. And he's just like, oh. He's projecting real hard onto Sonic. And he's like, so you pretended to be my friend. You pretended to be my friend because I saved you from the pool. Is that it? And Sonic's like, no, that's not at all what happened. Anyway, he just ends up talking through like his own issues, like to himself, basically. He's talking at Sonic, and he realizes that I'm just afraid of being alone again, but it's also not fair for me to keep you here and to also basically end the world, because the world would end, which let me talk about a continuity error with that. Okay, so everybody needs to go back. Everybody from Sonic's world needs to go back to their regular world so that the worlds don't collide and stop time. So then what about Charmy, Vector, Espio, the entire group of Chows that were just living on the Chow Garden in the last season, and also in this season as well, Big the Cat, Froggy? Did they also get to go into this like portal thing, or are they still on Earth? At some point, Sonic also mentions that maybe these worlds are supposed to collide again together. It's just an offhanded comment, but it'll probably come back around for next time. But the continuity error of the fact that like there are more than just Sonic and friends creatures on this Earth from Sonic's world, and we're not rounding them up because they also need to go back there. Like they frame it as if anybody from Sonic's world is still in the real world, or the real world, but still in this our world, it's gonna cause an issue. Girl, whatever. So anyway, Chris is like, oh yeah, that's not fair for me to keep you here. Okay, you can leave. So we don't really actually get to see the end of this conversation. His parents end up finding him alone sitting on the docks, and Sonic eventually comes back. So the last episode is Sonic's friends, not Sonic, and friends, in the new Mobius world, well, the new old Mobius world, and Eggman is causing havoc like he used to, but he's like kind of sad that Sonic isn't there. He's like, where is my arch nemesis? Like Doofenshmirtz level, like, hello, like I can't just sit here and cause havoc without him being here, like, come on now. And Tails is like the middle of the fucking night, so Amy is like, oh, it's the middle of the fucking night, and Tails is like, it's the middle of the fucking night, and so they go and try to beat the shit out of Eggman. Okay, my battery died. My battery died. That's the first time that's ever happened to me. I only have one battery, so I had to stay here for like 5 minutes and recharge it. But like, anyway, so Tails tries to fight Eggman because, you know, he got his newfound vigor now. He's like, I've rough and tumbled with you like tens of millions of times. I'll do it again. So Eggman tries to send a missile towards Tails, but doesn't actually want to hurt him. But there's no like redirect for this missile, so he's actually gonna fucking kill Tails, basically. Like, Tails is like, this is it, this is the end, until Supersonic shows up, because he's supersonic for some fucking reason. He shows up, and then he saves Tails by defeating the missile, or like whatever, and they're like, oh my god, Sonic is back, yay, Sonic's here. Amy like has this like, she's like running towards him, and she's running towards him in the night. By the time she gets to him, it's daytime. I don't know, man. I don't know. Things are deteriorating. Anyway, so she's like, oh, why would you leave me? I love you so much. Basically just confessing to him, and he's just like, cool beans, cool beans. Anyway, that's actually the second to last episode. I lied. The final episode is when Chris is like grown up, like time has passed. It looks like 20 years has like passed, and Chris is like this adult, and he's like a physicist, scientist thing now, and he's also seemingly either dating or married to Helen, which is the girl who was like in the wheelchair. She's also like really cool now. She can like drive a car. Sam, for some reason, has an engineering degree, I guess, and designed a car specifically for Ella to be able to drive. I don't know, man. I don't know. They're like together. Chris was like making a portal to try and go to Sonic's world to see Sonic again. So Chris's only black friend and Francis, God, why can't I remember his name? I'm so sorry to Chris's only black friend. I cannot remember his name. But Anne Francis, they're all there, and they're all like, oh man, you know, it's been 6 years. It's been 6 years since we've seen Sonic and Friends. What do you mean it's only been 6 fucking years? They look like they're in their 20s. And last time I checked, Chris was still in elementary school when he was like a kid. So what are you talking about? It's only been 6 years. At the most, that would put them at like 16 or 18, depending on like if you want to make them like 12 or something. Add 6 years to that. That puts them at 18. They look like grown ass fucking adults. You know what? Whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So they're like, oh, maybe we can go see Sonic now. And that's just how the season ends. It just ends. They're like, oh, maybe we can go see Sonic now. We don't see Team Chaotix again. We don't see them at all. That's just how the season ends. But we do get to see what happened on that fateful night when Sonic and Chris were having that talk with each other. So it turns out the reason why Sonic was able to get back to his universe was that he had the emeralds all along, and now he's pretty much just waiting for Chris to make the right decision. And so Chris does make the right decision, and he lets Sonic go, and Sonic's like, you know, whenever you need me, just look up at the moon. And that's that. 'Cause every night I'm talking to the moon. Okay, anyway. Before I get copyrighted. And that's the end of the season. That's the end of the season. Hopefully, you know, will Chris's portal work? Who knows? Who knows? What a fucking whirlwind that was. Oh my god. We had like 4 different plot points going on in one season. People really must have complained about the lack of game content, and they were just like, you know what, fucking fine, we'll give you all the fucking game content and then we can do whatever the fuck we want, so leave us alone. And honestly, it worked. It worked really well, actually. It's kind of crazy how much it worked. This season was packed full of things from beginning to end. Sonic was in like every single episode. Chris got like real character development in him. He got to be flawed for at least a second and make the right decision in the end, like a kid should be. It was good. My good kudos off to this season. There's a reason why this season has like more positive reviews than like other seasons, and when people remember Sonic X, they remember specifically this season and onward, and no one really talks about season 1 aside from like the cruise ship episode, and like that's it. Now everything can get a little jumbled up over time, sans the Shadow storyline, right? That was kind of like jumbled up, and things, I feel like the Shadow storyline should have been like a little bit longer, like maybe towards the end of the season, and then we could have had Emerl and whatever. It's clear that they're trying to ghost. The camera died again, and at this point I don't want to do this. I don't want to restart everything again, so we're just gonna finish it like this. So it's very clear that they're trying to go somewhere with the rest of the show, and because of that they kind of needed to wrap up all of the storylines within this season. So that's why a bunch of storylines that probably should have been, you know, stretched out to the rest of the season ended up being only a couple of episodes long. I think that's fine, honestly. I definitely believe now that Chris and Sonic were besties, and now Chris felt like he had more weight to him as a character, and I was genuinely shocked at the ending, and it still felt bittersweet despite there being a second time doing this all over again. Like, this is the second time they're doing this, but it still felt more like they did it right this time. It felt more bittersweet. It felt like we actually were coming to a conclusion. I felt Chris's pain in losing his friend. Like, I actually cared. And Sonic is actually gone this time, at least for now. Man is definitely still carrying the humor of the show, but this season did get a lot more laughs out of me. I'm excited to see where this all leads, so strap in, because it's gonna be a cosmic bumpy ride. A cosmic jaunt. A cosmic crash. Bitch, we're going to space. Okay, hi, I'm on my phone now, because I needed to do this on my phone. I needed to do this outro. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you did, you are a real one. Go ahead and drop a like if you liked it. I mean, if you watched all the way to the end, I'm assuming you liked it, you know? And let me know down below how you felt about the season. If you remember the season more than anything else, let me know. Let me know how you feel about it down below. You can catch me on all of my social medias. And hey, I probably won't see you next week. Actually, I might see you next week, because I've been wanting to talk about Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel for a while now, but I'm in the middle of the Sonic series, but I feel like I could do like a little episode in between then. So you might see me before, actually you might see that Has Been Hotel video before you see the other videos, because that video will definitely be easier to edit than this Sonic video. So I actually might see you next week, but in case I don't worry, I will see you in the next episode. Love and peace.